Love it.
Put me in, coach.
All right, let's talk waivers this week. There are some big names out there. We'll get to David Johnson. He's kind of at the top of the list because of opportunity, the team he's on, and the workload that's coming his way. But let's talk wide receivers right now. I want to start in San Diego. You saw a big bounce-back game from Phillip Rivers this past week, which had to encourage both Phillip Rivers owners and owners of any wide receiver there. But the guys at the top of my list are Stevie Johnson, who for a third consecutive week had 7 receptions. This time he got a touchdown, 7 for 92 and a touchdown. And then I want to just speak briefly, deeper leagues, about Dontrell Inman. So what are your thoughts on these two guys? Stevie Johnson, rest of the season, is a wide receiver
2.
Yeah, low end 2. And I think it's a reliable low end 2. Like you said, 3 weeks in a row with 7 receptions. The reason he's on here, now he's owned in most leagues, but there's still almost 30% of ESPN leagues that have him on the wire. And he is a guy that's a plug-and-play, startable guy. You need a guy that you know isn't going to go out and score 4 total points. That's going to be Stevie Johnson. If he gets in the end zone like he did this last week, he'll give you a good game.
And for Inman, if it's a deeper league, sure, I think he's worth an ad just because the Chargers, though they insist on running continuously with Melvin Gordon, they really get everything done through the air with Phillip Rivers, and Inman's on the field a ton, just like Stevie Johnson. So he's not a bad option, in my opinion.
All right, so talk to me about Stevie versus like Kamar Aiken. Aiken had a good game last night. They both are kind of reliable, not special, not elite. Would you rather have Stevie or Aiken rest of the season?
I'd rather have Stevie just because it's Phillip Rivers versus Matt Schaub, where Kamar Aiken is still a solid pickup if he's around and people still haven't picked him up, which there's leagues where they haven't. But we saw last night that he's still going to get the targets. Unfortunately, the Ravens can't play the Browns every single week, so you won't see those wide open where there's no one within a 30-yard radius of Kamar Aiken. But he's still going to get a ton of targets. A ton of opportunity.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Schaub. You know, you don't know when a new quarterback comes in, who's he going to target? Is he going to use Betty Crockett Gilmore, which unfortunately he didn't. The first play of the game comes out, hits him. I'm like, oh, yeah. And there you go.
That was it.
I think he got 2 more tiny passes late in the game. But it was nice to see Kamar Aiken.
Tiny passes.
I know. I'm visualizing that too.
The one thing I like more about Kamar Aiken than Stevie Johnson, and I do agree I would rather have Stevie Johnson because his baseline and his quarterback, but Kamar Aiken at least is used a little bit more downfield. Stevie Johnson doesn't normally get used as much on longer. We've seen 7 receptions in 3 back-to-back games, and with the exception of this week with 92, he's had about 10 yards a catch. So the guy that I'm excited about, can I talk about the wide receiver that I am most intrigued about on this list?
Sure.
Devante Parker. With Rashard Matthews out, and we've seen how valuable Rashard Matthews has been this year. He's been one of those guys that nobody really wants to believe in week after week after week after week because he's Rashard Matthews, and he was almost traded and cut before the year. But Devante Parker is coming into this year. Some people were talking about him hand in hand with Kevin White and Amari Cooper as the best rookie coming in. He was injured. He didn't get on the field much this year, has, I believe, 4 back-to-back goose eggs because he wasn't used. But Rashard Matthews goes down this last week, 4 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. And he's more the future. And so you want to talk about a guy that you can grab that maybe has a big potential to all of a sudden become a target that's used, and when that happens, he could break big games and score big points. That's a guy I would love to stash. Maybe.
But how do you stash at this point? Because that would be my question about him. You're not, unless you're in a dynasty league. Like, how can you feel confident?
Let's say from
a fantasy perspective, putting Devante Parker into a playoff line.
Let's say I grab him right now, and this week he comes out and gets 6 catches for 78 yards. Then the following week, after 2 back-to-back weeks with Rashard Matthews still injured, I'm absolutely fine putting him out there.
And they have a solid matchups coming up, the Dolphins. So they got Baltimore this week, the Giants the following week, the Chargers, and then the Colts in championship week 16. So they have a string of games where you can succeed.
If they just put him in Rashard Matthews' role, I think he outperforms what Matthews did, and he was a startable guy.
Yeah. And I mean, but we haven't seen it.
Yeah,
And so I guess depending on your need and your risk aversion, I mean, I'd rather start Stevie Johnson, Kamar Aiken.
Yes.
I'd rather start Doug Baldwin than Devante Parker. But I'm not saying you're wrong that he could become that. It's just so late in the season. I would have loved to see this happen 3 weeks ago and be the Odell Beckham, and maybe he could still do that. Maybe, to your point, I don't know if 6 for 78 is going to talk me into starting him, but if he came out and he caught 8 balls for 165 and 2 touchdowns,
sure.
All of a sudden you're like, okay, I'll just rush him in there because of the talent and opportunity. So it's a good point, and he's the most upside of any of these guys by far. So another guy worth mentioning, Doug Baldwin, I just said his name, 6 for 145, 3 touchdowns. Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson
is on a roll.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it.
He's on fire.
He's on fire.
Well, we'll go. You got to go the NBA Jam rules. So he's got 2. So he's heating up.
He's heating up.
Does he
more and
catch
he's on
fire against the Vikings this week in Minnesota?
No. I don't think so. I do think Doug Baldwin is a good pickup, as much because Jimmy Graham is gone as the heating up of Russell Wilson. With Jimmy Graham gone, that's just more targets going elsewhere. I don't expect him to go to Luke Wilson at the same type and variety.
Don't you mean Luke
Wilson? That was funny. We couldn't. So we're putting our doc together yesterday, and we wanted to look up Luke Wilson's stats. And we're looking through our ESPN, and we can't find it. We're like, does someone have him on a roster?
He's in Matrixed, and he was out of the system.
He's nowhere to be found, and that's because apparently Luke Wilson spells his name with 2 L's. Who spells Wilson with 2 L's?
Luke.
Yeah.
His parents.
There you go.
His parents as well. Yeah, I didn't expect that. I had the same thing happen when I was putting some preliminary rankings together. I couldn't find him anywhere last night, and eventually noticed that he was in there. So
the last guy
we'll talk about him.
The last guy I want to mention is Ty Montgomery. He from Green Bay. He's still hurt. We're not sure if he's going to play, but
it's always good.
I believe. Well, I'm just saying that the opportunity will be there when he's back. The team has
desperate.
Devonta Freeman stinks.
Adams.
Well,
we've moved past.
Wow,
Freeman.
Wow. That's I want to get
Freudian
both of those
slip.
quotes where you say it and you say it, and you both just put them together.
The team has gotten to the point. You even had McCarthy coming out and is basically saying, "Devontae Adams, you stink." So if Montgomery's back, it wouldn't surprise me in the next couple games to see him overtake Adams. It's a long shot for sure, but maybe you're in that situation where that's what you need.
All right, running backs, the number 1 guy, David Johnson. He was 8 for 21 and a touchdown, 2 for 8 through the air. One of the things I like about David Johnson is he is a bona fide pass-catching running back. The Cardinals, when they had Chris Johnson and Ellington involved, they would bring Johnson in and run him on wheel routes for touchdowns. They'd run him on wheel routes for important plays. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and the workload's going to be very good for them. So talk about his how much do you blow on him right now? I mean, everything, right?
I was talking to Jason about this. It has been madness, pure fantasy madness. The amount of running backs who are spend your entire budget on that guy, where you had Char West, he wasn't in everything, but he was spend a good amount because he has a great opportunity. Then you had D'Angelo Williams, who has been great.
Rawls,
Buck Allen. And now David Johnson. I mean, this is I believe this is why people like the 0 running back strategy, because running backs are going to get hurt. But I'm trying to remember. I don't recall chaos like this where top level running backs were approaching. We're not talking about a guy from like I can't think of a team right now, but a running back, backup running back, where situations you're like
right.
He'll be a running back low end.
Well, Alfred Blue this year.
Okay, that's
a good example, right?
Perfect.
Because you would have spent a few bucks on him, you wouldn't have spent your whole fat budget.
Where David Johnson, high-powered offense, high-powered player, spark scores, just freak athlete.
I don't know if it's still the case, but there was a time this year where he was the fastest measured player in the NFL on a single play.
On his kickoff return.
All right,
I got trivia time for you.
Oh.
It's going to be real easy.
Oh.
What
David
play?
Johnson.
You are correct. I'll just say it then. David Johnson right now, of all running backs in the league, has the most fantasy points per attempt. When he
touches the ball,
he has the most fantasy points per touch. So,
how responsible do you feel for the injuries to Chris Johnson and Andre Ellington? Because the running David Johnson refrain through the entire season.
Reaper has come.
It's only appropriate, right, that the kind of culmination of the entire season is now in the hands of David Johnson. It's out of nowhere.
It's not just us. There's a lot of other experts who really like David Johnson.
I'm pretty sure we're the only ones that sing about him.
No, that's definitely not true in the sense that when you say we're the only ones, yes, if you're including the Foot Clan. But I get tweeted every time David Johnson touches the ball that they're singing David Johnson.
It's just funny, though. It's just funny that we're here in week 13 and David Johnson is ultra relevant again.
I am so happy that you guys have no fab money.
Yeah, that would be, well, speaking of another guy to spend some fab on, maybe. It's going to depend on practice reports. But let's move on to Spencer Ware. This guy has been ultra efficient. Last week had a huge game in limited work. This past week, 19 for 114 and a touchdown. I've said this before, Kansas City runs more touchdowns in than any team in football. So what do we do with Spencer Ware? Because he is a tough situation.
Yeah, his relevance is reliant on Char West. If Char West is going to
they play the Raiders this week.
Oh, delicious. But if Char West is back, unfortunately, I think that Ware has to have earned playtime when Char West is back. So you've kind of got. Now you have two guys where Charkandrick West was getting just all the volume before he went down with the hamstring. So even when he comes back, I think that Ware is going to eat into his
could be like a
workload.
Forte Langford situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Ware, if West is out again, which I haven't read anything positive about his hamstring as of yet, he's still a great ad.
Yeah, I could see him starting and getting the whole workload this week.
A great short-term ad.
Yeah, short-term ad. But obviously, if you are the West owner, and Spencer Ware's out there, you got to bid a lot and grab him because while he's gone, you've got a stud. So
all right, what about Shaun Draughn, the only running back? So for the 49ers, the only running back in football this year to take every single snap from the running back position through an entire game. 15 for 51, 5 for 35 through the air, pulling the Darren McFadden stat lines for the 49ers.
Ultimate stinky fantasy trash.
Stinky volume play.
This is what you want, though. I would if I'm looking for a long-term solution, I have Draughn ahead of Ware.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just, like you said, every snap. The San Francisco, they say no one else on our team is good enough to bypass.
And honestly, he's looked okay. On the game film, he's looked kind of fast.
Absolutely, I agree that he does pass an eye test, and just the volume of checkdowns from Blaine Gabbert is just so tremendous that you can't overlook it. I was able to get him. I mean, you had the chaos last week of waiver ads, and in a very competitive league, I snuck Draughn for $0 onto my team, and it was fantastic. And I'm very excited for that moving forward, just like I think everyone else should be. You don't like it, you aren't going to be happy about putting him in your...
He's the vegetable.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the vegetable on your plate.
I love it. He's a fantasy vegetable that is going to make your team healthy.
Yeah, Julio might be the steak, but you need some vegetables on your plate.
That's maybe my favorite analogy.
And then you follow it up with some dirty cake. Jeremy Maclin back again, baby.
Gross.
All right. I'm going to throw out some more running back names. You guys tell me who you like, but these are some guys on the radar for the waiver wire. Theo Riddick, Amir Abdullah, Alfred Morris had a good game. Alfred Blue, so both Alfreds. Jay Ajayi, I don't know why that's so comical to me that I have two Alfreds on the team, but anybody there that you're really excited about? I mean, is Abdullah back on the radar? Are we back in is this the beginning of the season again? Abdullah David Johnson?
It could be. He's getting the workload. I mean, 16 carries. Yeah, we are very slowly warming up the Express right now. The Abdullah Express.
Good, I got about 50 posters I need to send out once he starts playing well again.
Shoveling snow out of the way in front of it.
I mean, the Abdullah Express was in the station just covered in cobwebs and dust and spiders And we're rolling it out. We got the gate half open here for the Abdullah Express. And
I mean, you want to know what
are
the
the
problem
numbers?
is?
16 for 63?
The problem for Abdullah is Theo Riddick.
Yes.
And the problem for Theo Riddick is
Abdullah.
Abdullah. They just it seems like, one of them is getting
With
all the
our
carries.
powers combined.
If we could get the machine from the movie The Fly. Are you guys familiar with The Fly?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We put Abdullah and Riddick in the same machine.
Ooh.
And we come out with
A guy that can both...
Abdullah Ramir. Then we have an ultimate running back.
So if you can only grab one of these guys, which one would you prefer to have on your team? The pass catcher or the
Honestly,
PPR,
it's Riddick. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, standard, it's Abdullah.
Of all those guys, I think, honestly, I would rather have Alfred Blue right now. Alfred Blue, he's not sexy. We talked about him a minute ago. He's a guy like, he got when Aaron got injured,
he's like
don't
a
rush out to get
radish.
him. Yeah. He doesn't provide that many vitamins for your
Not
team.
that nutritious.
But he is clearly the guy that's being used there. He's getting volume. He gets the goal line work. So, to me, I'm not super excited about any of those guys. But if Alfred Blue's out there, he's worth being on the team.
And for Morris, it's just as of now, it seems like he is the starting running back. Washington, again, proves that they just have no idea what they're doing of spinning round and round. The Matt Jones fumbles have forced the hand of Morris to be back in. And
well,
they're
the division leader. They're going to be fighting the rest of the season. That's one thing we know about Washington is they're going to be competing, and they've got a Monday night game against the Cowboys without Tony Romo, so it's a very winnable game. One guy I should mention, if you haven't done it already, handcuff your Lamar Miller with Jay Ajayi if he's available in your league, because they might go to a more hot hand approach with higher volume there, and you just want to have him on your team.
I agree. That was my next point. Was I think Ajayi needs to be added for Miller, not just Miller owners, but he is a great speculative ad in my opinion. I'm kind of got that bubble guts feeling for Lamar Miller, where the Dolphins might just completely look to the future. I talked about this yesterday.
Free agent.
And Lamar Miller's a free agent. We're not hearing anything about them re-signing him.
So dynasty leagues, Jay Ajayi, dynasty keeper league should be on your roster regardless.
He's already rostered in dynasty, but
sorry. I mean, like a keeper league. If you hold over 2 or 3 guys for the next season, you might want to add him the same way you'd add Rawls. I mean, obviously Rawls has relevance now, but those type of guys that looking into next season might be starting running backs.
Yeah, like Ajayi and Matt Jones, where the guys in front of them are just
they could be gone.
Yep,
Langford as well. All right, tight ends. Scott Chandler last week was 5 for 58 and a touchdown. He actually had the most targets, I think, for the tight end. 11 targets in all of football last week. Gronkowski set to miss this week. This is still maybe the trepidatious nature of the Patriots. I mean, I think Chandler could come out and block all game and get a catch. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. And we need to make sure, because we gave Scott Chandler all that love. I think if you're a Gronk owner, Scott Chandler is a great option to have, because he's obviously going to fill in for the time that you need him. You don't have to worry about what time is New England playing to make your decision. You've got that in Scott Chandler. And specific for why I'm going to pick him up to snake against you is because you need a big boom game, and you've got Tom Brady.
He has the highest potential for that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to avoid. As far as him versus the other guys, I think he's in a pack of decent options for tight end this week. Who do the Patriots play?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, so I kind of like him a little bit more. I would put him first on my list of tight ends, but he's not David Johnson type. You don't need to go and drop a ton of fab on him.
So some other guys that are worth discussing, and this is kind of interesting. I looked at scoring leaders at tight end position this past week, and 5 of the top 10 in our league were unowned. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily apply to every league, but you're talking about guys like Vance McDonald. Zach Miller scored again. Kyle Rudolph had another solid game in terms of targets and catches, 7 for 53. There are some names, I believe Ryan Griffin was one of them, and there were Cameron Brate from Tampa. Yeah. So this is one of those things where you're rolling the dice, right? You can roll the dice with Rudolph. You can roll it with Richard Rodgers, who right now seems like the one, or probably the only guy that Rodgers seems really like he wants to throw to in the red zone. So who is it? I mean, I like Rudolph right now because the target numbers for 2 straight weeks have been up, and they're playing a Seattle defense, which, it's Seattle. Well, Seattle's not good against the tight end.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And to me, though, it's old McDonald. Vance McDonald, you have a situation where Garrett Selleck, the other tight end, who they were kind of siphoning away from each other, he went down in a heap. I think it was an ankle injury, and it looks like he's going to miss some time. So it's the Vance McDonald show, and Blaine Gabbert has shown that he wants to throw to the running back, and he wants to throw it to the tight end. So I really like him. If you miss out on Scott Chandler and you can get Vance McDonald for very cheap, I think you are in a good situation. And Vance McDonald takes on
the Bears.
Chicago, which
they've been pretty good
against. They've been okay.
The Vance McDonald thing is interesting because the only thing that's giving me hesitation, and maybe it shouldn't, but I think he's had like career high games in back-to-back weeks. Like his career high was last week, and then he passed his career high, which is good, right? Like that's
it's
great.
The situation of
So he's got to do it again.
Are you okay over there?
I'm dying.
you sound like Batman. Swear to me.
Yeah, that
Sorry,
was.
I'm back.
But he's had his career highs
Do it again.
because the offensive situation has changed in San Francisco.
You're right. You're right.
So they're a brand new team essentially right now. You have with Draughn.
And he should be a lot
Gabbert.
cheaper than other guys that you'd be competing
Absolutely.
for.
And you lost. You didn't just lose Selleck. When you're talking about the season, they traded Vernon Davis away, who was their first.
Yeah,
excellent
And then
point.
there was Selleck, and then I'm gonna die.
What is
What
my
is
voice?
going on with your voice?
I don't know. I think it's
Just quit smoking.
You need your fantasy vegetables.
All right, good thing this show's almost over here. All right, so what about Zach Miller? Zach Miller's still he's still involved.
If
Martellus Bennett's
if
been
Bennett is
banged up.
out, then Miller is a fine play to me. I mean, he only had 2 catches. He got the touchdown. Jay Cuddy seems to be looking for him. Jason's in the
he's
corner.
coughing in the corner of
He
the
looked
room.
like the Blair Witch Project behind us, putting himself in the corner.
I hope the first word out of his mouth. How you doing, Jay? Why don't you talk a little bit about some defenses you like this week?
okay.
Streaming defenses.
All right, streaming defenses. I don't know what you just said, Mike, but I'm gonna go.
I think it's something about Blair Walsh.
So I actually like Washington at Dallas. I think their defense has been pretty good, and Tony Romo won't be there.
He'll be there
Sure.
in a sling.
But if you're looking for, let's say, we like Houston, we like Minnesota, they're good, but they're probably rostered. If you're looking for a team that is definitely on waivers, look for the team playing against the Ravens because Matt Schaub likes to throw pick sixes. That is pretty much now what he is known for, and touchdowns are worth points.
Dolphins.
So that's right, the Miami Dolphins.
Chicago plays San Francisco at home, and Chicago's competing for a playoff spot. So that is a very and their secondary has been so good. It's going to be an interesting game to see if they can shut down that 49er offense like everybody else has. They've been. I mean, I think we looked yesterday. San Francisco's in the bottom 3 in terms of
Everything.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Sorry.
We're NFC fans. West fans. We're not being kind right now. Gabbert's looked capable-ish.
Yes, he sure has.
So I like the Bears' defense this week. Is there anybody else that stands out for people starting?
I mean, it's for me. It's.
Are you still confident
Houston.
with the Chiefs in Oakland?
No. We saw the Chiefs at the beginning of the year when the defense was very, very bad, and the Chiefs were a plus matchup for quarterbacks and wide receivers because the secondary is a little bit rough, and if they can't get that pass rush with Houston, that could be a very trap situation for you.
Yeah, actually, Oakland, I believe, scores the 8th most points against fantasy defenses, so they have not been a good matchup.
Derek Carr, I have stated I'm buying into Derek Carr, and the Texans, at least in ESPN, are available in more than 50% of leagues.
Yeah,
and so they are a defense on the rise with a pretty solid schedule into the playoffs. Week 14 is the Patriots. You probably want to avoid that. But then you have the Colts and the Titans for the rest of the time. And they have Buffalo this week, who is hit or miss with Tyrod Taylor.